In the heart of the Colorado wilderness, surrounded by towering pine trees and the distant echoes of untamed nature, Joe Rogan received a mysterious invitation that would forever alter the course of his life. The note, a work of meticulous handwriting, had arrived at his doorstep like a whisper from the shadows. It beckoned him to an isolated cabin buried deep within the rugged embrace of the Rocky Mountains. The sender's identity remained concealed, cloaked in anonymity, but the message was tantalizingly explicit. It promised an extraordinary adventure, one that would challenge the very limits of Joe's curiosity and courage. It spoke of secrets hidden within the folds of the wilderness, of untold mysteries waiting to be unraveled, and of an experience that transcended the ordinary. Intrigued by the enigmatic invitation, Joe Rogan, known for his insatiable thirst for the unknown, decided to accept the challenge. He was no stranger to the unexplored realms of human existence, having delved into the depths of consciousness, explored the extremes of human potential, and ventured into the minds of countless guests on his podcast. This, however, was a journey into the realm of the supernatural, where the boundaries between reality and legend blurred like a fading dream. With a determined spirit and a sense of anticipation that quickened his pulse, Joe began to pack his gear. Amongst his essentials, he included a state-of-the-art recording device to capture every moment of this enigma-filled adventure. His loyal audience, who had accompanied him on countless journeys of discovery through the airwaves, would be by his side once more, albeit virtually, as he embarked on this audacious expedition into the unknown. As he stood at the threshold of this remarkable journey, Joe Rogan's mind buzzed with questions. Who was the elusive sender of the invitation, and what mysteries lay in wait in the heart of the Rocky Mountains? With his bags packed and a sense of purpose burning in his chest, he set out on a path that would take him deep into the heart of the wilderness, where untold adventures and eerie enigmas awaited his arrival. After days of arduous hiking through rugged terrain, where each step was a battle against the untamed wilderness, Joe Rogan finally reached the remote cabin. It was a modest structure, dwarfed by the towering pine trees that cradled it in their woody embrace. The air was thick with an eerie silence that seemed to swallow all sound, leaving Joe with only the echo of his own footsteps. The cabin's exterior bore the scars of time and nature's relentless assault, its wooden walls weathered and adorned with lichen, as if the forest itself sought to claim this abode. As he approached, Joe couldn't help but feel a sense of foreboding, as if the very landscape held its breath in anticipation of his arrival. Upon entering, he was greeted by an interior that exuded rustic charm, though it was tinged with an undeniable air of antiquity. Faded photographs of unknown faces adorned the walls, capturing moments from lives long past. The books that lined the cabin's shelves seemed to whisper secrets of forgotten times, their pages yellowed and their spines cracked. It was as if the cabin itself was a relic of a bygone era, untouched by the passage of time. As night began its slow descent, casting long shadows that danced with the flicker of a lone lantern, Joe set up his recording equipment. His heart raced as he realized he was truly alone in this remote wilderness, surrounded by an atmosphere that seemed to pulse with otherworldly energy. With a deep breath, he began recording his podcast, recounting the isolation and the mysterious circumstances that had brought him to this desolate place. The words flowed from him like a river of uncertainty, his voice tinged with a growing unease. The episode took on an eerie atmosphere, as if the very walls of the cabin were listening, and the forest beyond held its breath in anticipation. As the minutes turned to hours, and the cabin's creaks and groans merged with Joe's words, an unsettling feeling settled over him. Each sound, each rustle, seemed to echo with a presence he couldn't quite fathom. Shivers coursed down his spine, but he pressed on, determined to document this inexplicable journey into the heart of the unknown, even as the cabin's mysteries began to unfurl around him. As Joe Rogan delved deeper into the recording of his podcast, the atmosphere within the cabin grew increasingly oppressive. The very walls seemed to creak and moan, as if they held within them ancient secrets yearning to break free. Shadows danced in the dim corners of his vision, defying the sourceless flicker of candlelight that illuminated the room. A palpable chill permeated the air, clinging to his skin like a spectral presence. The episode he was recording took on an eerie and unsettling tone, reflecting the unsettling ambience of the cabin itself. His words carried with them a sense of trepidation, as if he were tiptoeing along the precipice of the supernatural. During a brief respite from recording, Joe heard it, a whisper, soft and barely audible, yet unmistakably real. It was a voice that wasn't his own, a voice that seemed to emerge from the very ether of the cabin. The words were hushed and fragmented, like fragmented echoes of forgotten tales, ancient rituals, and an unspeakable darkness lurking in the woods. Fear gripped Joe's heart as the realization dawned upon him. He might not be alone in the cabin. His instincts screamed at him to flee, to escape this place where the line between reality and the supernatural blurred like a mirage in the desert. But his unyielding curiosity, the very essence of his being, compelled him to remain and confront the enigma that had cast its shadow upon his journey. As the minutes stretched into hours, Joe felt a growing unease, a creeping dread that settled deep in the pit of his stomach. The cabin held secrets that he was determined to uncover, no matter the cost. With each passing moment, the unsettling events inside the cabin intensified, and Joe Rogan's recording device captured every chilling detail. His voice, once steady, now trembled with fear as he recounted the whispers and eerie happenings that had plagued him since his arrival. The episode he was recording had transformed into a live record of his growing terror, a testament to the inexplicable horrors he was experiencing. As Joe's words echoed within the cabin's walls, he was acutely aware that he was no longer in control of the situation. The very environment around him seemed to pulse with an otherworldly energy, and a bone-chilling presence filled the room, suffocating him in its malevolence. In a sudden and shocking turn of events, the cabin's door, which had remained closed and weathered for decades, swung open with a deafening creak. A gust of icy wind tore through the room, extinguishing the feeble candlelight. Shadows danced wildly, mocking Joe's futile attempts to maintain his composure. In the darkness, Joe felt an invisible force pulling at him, urging him toward the wilderness beyond the cabin's threshold. Panic welled up within him as he realized he had a choice to make. An agonizing decision that would define the outcome of this terrifying ordeal. He could either stay and confront the unfathomable unknown lurking within the cabin's walls, or flee into the inky blackness of the night, with no guarantee of escape from the malevolent forces that had been unleashed. With sweat-soaked palms and a racing heart, Joe Rogan stood at the precipice of a choice that would forever alter the course of his life. Summoning his courage and fueled by an unyielding determination, Joe Rogan made a decision that would test the very limits of his bravery. He stepped out into the wilderness, guided only by the ethereal glow of the pale moonlight. Shadows writhed around him, each one carrying the weight of centuries of whispered secrets and hidden horrors. As he ventured further from the cabin's shelter, strange symbols etched themselves into the soil beneath his feet, illuminated by the moon's faint radiance. These arcane markings seemed to pulse with an ancient power, as if they were the remnants of a forgotten ritual site, long abandoned by those who had once invoked dark forces beyond comprehension. With each determined step, the haunting presence surrounding Joe intensified. It was as though the very forest itself came alive with an unsettling awareness, and the malevolence he had sensed within the cabin now coalesced into an indomitable force that challenged his very existence. Joe understood that he had stumbled upon an ancient entity, an entity responsible for the cabin's eerie phenomena, a malevolent spirit bound to the cursed place for centuries. Fear gnawed at him, but his unwavering spirit propelled him forward. He would not succumb to the terror that threatened to engulf him. He was determined to confront this supernatural malevolence head-on. In a harrowing encounter that defied the boundaries of the natural world, Joe Rogan faced the malevolent spirit. He He challenged it with a steadfast resolve, demanding answers from a force that had remained hidden for ages. Words of power and defiance flowed from him, each syllable laced with the echoes of forgotten incantations and the courage of countless souls who had dared to confront the unknown. As the confrontation unfolded, the ghostly entity's grip on the cabin and the surrounding wilderness began to loosen. The air crackled with a spectral energy, and the ancient malevolence, unable to withstand Joe's unyielding determination, finally found release. The forest seemed to exhale a collective sigh of relief as the entity dissipated into the night, leaving behind only an eerie silence. With the first light of dawn, Joe Rogan returned to the cabin. The supernatural occurrences that had plagued him now ceased. He concluded the recording of his podcast, capturing the profound events that had unfolded during this nightmarish journey into the heart of the unknown. Joe emerged from the Colorado wilderness, his voice bearing witness to the spine-tingling story he had experienced. It was an episode that would become legendary, forever etched in the annals of his podcast, leaving his audience both terrified and intrigued, and challenging them to question the boundless mysteries of the unknown that lurked in the shadows of the world.